Hi everyone, and welcome to video 8 of the 8-part video series on understanding painful emotions. My name is Renee Zaia and I'm the founder of Make the Move Coaching. I'm a life coach and also a relationships coach, helping people to create happy, healthy and thriving lives that they can create their best dreams. So if you're new to the video series, first of all, welcome. This is the last video in the 8-part video series, but feel free to go back and watch the other videos. And if you're a returning fan, welcome back, and I look forward to taking you through this video. This work, I just want to articulate, is really important to me about understanding painful emotions, because part of my mission here is to create more joy and happiness in the world. And we can only really do that when we understand our painful emotions and also learn techniques and strategies on how to master them or manage them. So let's get into today's video, which is a summary and integration of all the content that we've learned so far. So let's go. So in today's video, we will recap the 6 umbrellas of painful emotions. We'll reassess the scale of painful emotions, look at where they come from, their purpose, some of the negative impacts of painful emotions. We'll also review the #1 impact of painful emotions. We're going to also bust some myths about managing our emotions, because there's quite a few myths out there. And we'll look at next steps and special offers. So recapping on the 6 umbrellas of painful emotions. So we have anger, fear, sadness, hurt, shame, and guilt. And the reason we call these umbrellas is because under them sit a range of emotions that are related to that master umbrella. So let's play a little bit of quick trivia. So if someone was feeling frustration, which umbrella do you think that would fall under? So the emotion of frustration, would it be hurt or guilt? It's actually anger. So frustration is part of the anger umbrella, along with other emotions of feeling annoyed, aggravated, jealous, hatred, and some other emotions also, like feeling inflamed, outraged, and so forth. Let's try another one. If someone was feeling depressed or depression, which umbrella do you think that would fall under? Just even have a guess. It falls under the umbrella of sadness, along with other emotions of upset, grief, loneliness, feeling miserable, or even indifferent. What about the next emotion of feeling embarrassed? Would it be hurt? Would it be fear? Would it be guilt? It's actually shame. And embarrassment sits along with other emotions of feeling humiliated, mortified, self-disgust, exposed, and even feeling self-conscious. So what about the next emotion? If someone was feeling rejected, where do you think that would fall under? It falls under the umbrella of hurt, along with the other emotions of feeling abandoned, feeling let down, disappointed, offended, disillusioned, and even other emotions such as feeling betrayed. And the next emotion, if someone was feeling anxious, which of the last 2 remaining umbrellas would that sit under? Would it be guilt? It's actually fear. So anxiety, which is a very prevalent condition in today's society, sits under the umbrella of fear, along with feeling afraid, feeling terrified, panicked, doubtful, nervous, even other emotions like worried or concerned. And the last emotion we'll look at is the emotion of regret, which does sit under the emotion of guilt. And that sits along with other emotions like blame, feeling sorry, feeling remorseful, or even troubled. So those are the 6 umbrellas recapping on that, but we know that there's a scale of emotions. So when we look at the scales, let's take the first 3 examples of anger, fear, and guilt. So on the left-hand side of this, we have the milder versions of these primary emotions. So, for example, anger can start with mild feelings of feeling annoyed, irritated, agitated, but can escalate if we don't deal with it in healthy ways to feeling inflamed, enraged, or even hatred. Similarly with fear, early signs of fear set out to be things like feeling doubtful, unsure, concerned, or worried. and can quite escalate significantly to feelings of anxiety, feeling panic, or even terrified. Similarly with guilt, can start off with mild feelings of feeling troubled or regret and can escalate to feeling quite strong remorse. For sadness, shame and hurt, for sadness specifically, mild feelings of disappointment and feeling disheartened or even loneliness can escalate to feeling apathetic or even depression. For shame, there might be mild feelings of feeling uncomfortable or awkward or self-conscious, which can escalate to feelings of feeling humiliated or even mortified. And hurt can start with mild feelings of feeling let down or disappointed, but can ultimately escalate to feeling rejected, abandoned, or even heartbroken. So that's the scale. Now the scales are important because if we don't manage some of those earlier milder emotions, then they can escalate to more severe and extreme painful emotions. However, the caveat on that is that some events will trigger an instant reaction in some of those other emotions as well. So for example, if someone had lost someone that they loved, that they'd passed away, they might be having really severe feelings of grief or even depression quite early on in the process. So trust me, they won't be feeling mildly disappointed if someone had passed away. So those are the scale of emotions. So it's important to understand that. And it's also quite normal to experience a range of emotions at the same time, which is where we'll move to now when we look at where do painful emotions come from. So as humans, we are all trees in the same forest. We have the same structure, being roots, trunk, branches and leaves, but our composition can be different. So looking at the root structure, we have our past. So a range of positive and negative and sometimes traumatic events that will influence how we experience the world and our emotions of the world, because the human experience is a feeling experience. Everything we do in life is based on a desired feeling, and our experience are also reflected in our emotions. So that's the past. From the past, if we've had negative experiences and even just observing other people, for example, we can pick up limiting beliefs. And most of our limiting beliefs come from 0 to 7. So our subconscious mind is shaped from 0 to 7 years old. And even after that, certain experiences can influence our ability to have limiting beliefs. So what are they? Limiting beliefs are basically a thought on repeat, which is a belief, and it's in a negative context. So some people believe that money doesn't grow on trees, that something always happens to them or something will never happen for them. Those are limiting beliefs, and those are actually influence how we see the world. Then we have our personality. So, as humans, we're quite resourceful and we adapt certain personality traits or even archetypes, or some people even call them our managers. And these personality traits can be both positive and also negative, for example. So some people are the advocate, so really strong sense of justice and advocacy and fighting for what's important to them. Some people are the hero, some people are the wounded child, some people are the Mr. Fixer, or the Miss Fixer, or the rescuer. And there's no judgment attached to these. As humans, we're quite resourceful. But the personality traits can be understood and also changed. We can change our behaviours. We also have the central nervous system, okay? So that's our brain and our nerves, and how that also links and talks to other parts of our bodies. So the brain sends signals to, say, for example, the endocrine system, which includes your glands. So if you're experiencing the emotion of fear, or there was a fearful event that happened, the brain would instantly pretty much say, oh, there's a threat. I'm going to send a signal to the adrenal glands, which sit on top of the kidneys, to pump the stress hormone of adrenaline, because we're getting ready to fight or flight. And it's pretty quick that happens too, which is great, because that central nervous system is also part of our safety management system for humans. We also have our thoughts, but what you might not know is that only 5% of thoughts come from the conscious mind. So conscious thoughts being the deliberate intention to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to go pick that up, I'm going to make something, I'm going to write something. So those are our conscious thoughts. But we also have our subconscious thoughts, and 95% of those come from the subconscious mind. So those are thoughts that are automatic. They govern a lot of our body functions. So you don't actually think to yourself, Okay, lungs, keep breathing, or heart, keep pumping. It's all automatic. That's part of our system. And why this is important is because you cannot always use your conscious mind to get out ahead of an emotion, okay? Number one, because your subconscious system is lightning fast and you will feel it before you have a chance to have a conscious thought about it. But equally, only 5% of our thoughts come from the conscious mind. So moving to the trunk of the tree, we have an event, and that could be anything. That could be changing a job. That could just be seeing something or hearing something that frightens you. It could be other events, say for example, the death of a loved one, even moving house. And we have an event, and then in response to those events, based on our root systems, we experience a range of emotions. And it is quite common to experience mixed or conflicting emotions. So say for example, you have an elderly person who's passed away and they were terminally ill. And you might feel the emotion of relief because they're no longer suffering, but you also will experience the emotion of grief because they've passed away and they've moved on. So quite common to have mixed and conflicting emotions. But moving up into the leaves of the tree are physical symptoms. Okay, so instant responses in terms of physicality can be like the racing heart, the adrenaline system starts kicking in that I mentioned. We can have shallow breathing, but over long periods of time, as we mentioned in the previous videos where we examined the individual painful emotions, is that they can manifest in very serious physical symptoms. For example, unhealed grief can impact the lungs, unhealed guilt can impact the large intestines, and there are a range of other physical symptoms that can come from our thoughts and our emotions. But painful emotions also have an important purpose. They're part of our internal guidance system. They go with the head and the heart, okay, the feeling part of ourselves. And when we experience painful emotions, they can indicate a breach of our boundaries or values. It can indicate behaviours we are willing or not willing to accept from others. It also determines or influences our sense of our moral compass, our sense of justice, and reveals to us what matters, who and what we have loved. It ultimately keeps us safe, it's life-sustaining, and can help us to make new choices, both positive and negative, some of those choices, and can compel us to take action as well. One thing that was revealed though in the other videos is that shame was the only real painful emotion that didn't have a compelling purpose. And based on Brené Brown's definition that shame is basically someone else making us to feel unworthy of love and connection, it's no surprise that that doesn't really serve a purpose because inherently we are all lovable. But there are some significant impacts of painful emotions if not managed responsibly. So stress is the main one and the big one on a range of levels, including your mental, physical and emotional health. It can also affect your communication, so the way you communicate with your friends, family, business colleagues, service providers, anyone. And it can actually damage relationships as well, okay? Can impact your livelihood, your capacity to earn money. Some people, when they're in severe depression, literally cannot go to work. And it can also lead to isolation. Ultimately, as humans, we try and find the best way to cope with our painful emotions, but it isn't always healthy and can lead to a range of unhealthy coping mechanisms such as addictions, alcoholism, sex addictions, retail addictions, eating or disordered eating conditions, as well as compulsive behaviours as well. And ultimately, it impacts your ability to live a happy and fulfilling life. But as we went through the videos, there was one common theme when it comes to the impacts. And the number one theme is that all painful emotions have the potential to lead to isolation. So if you're an angry person, people are not going to want to, collaborate with you or have a relationship with you because you might be a bit of a hothead. And that can be quite isolating. Some of the other emotions, most of the other emotions like fear, can lead someone to withdraw from society. They might be afraid to actually go out from their home. And some of the other emotions like sadness, guilt, shame, and hurt, people tend to withdraw because they either become protective, self-protective, or they're afraid to even trust people and therefore engage people. And isolation is really probably not the #1 mental health condition, because it does lead to a whole range of physical and behavioural issues as well. And ultimately, the other theme that came through in all the videos was this idea of unhealthy coping mechanisms. So numbing ourselves, addictions, even paranoia and compulsive behaviours. You know, as humans, we're trying to do our best, but it's not always in a way that's healthy for us. And ultimately, it can damage our well-being. So those are the impacts. But let's look at some myths. So about mastering or managing your emotions. So one of the #1 myths I've found is that there's a lot of schools of thought out there that say, if you change your thoughts, you change your emotions. And the theory behind that is that changing your perspective through your thoughts may help you look at an event in a different way that results in less or a different emotional results. And I'm not saying, you know, don't change your perspective about things, but in the height of emotional pain, you need compassion. Why it is a myth, though, is that your subconscious mind is lightning fast. You will feel the emotion well before you can have any conscious thought about it to get out ahead of it. And with only 5% of your thoughts being conscious, you know, it's not a very effective strategy to change your thoughts, change your feelings, because your subconscious mind is running everything. And ultimately, using your head to rationalize emotional pain is also disrespectful to your heart. So when anyone's experiencing emotional pain, what do they need most? They need compassion, they need understanding. So that's myth 1. Myth 2 is that managing your emotions is about being mentally tough. So I've been through a number of resilience courses over the years, and there's this, you know, sometimes this energy of being mentally tough. And the theory is that being mentally tough is about using your mental logic to ignore, avoid, suppress, or invalidate what you're feeling. So you're basically saying, I'm not putting those emotions aside, I'm going to look at this with logic. And the theory is, if you look at an event objectively, you will not experience the emotion. So why is that a myth? So emotions are a part of our internal guidance system, an essential part of how we navigate life. You don't want to turn off that navigator, you need that. The head and the heart partner together, and to only use the head ignores the wisdom of the heart, because our emotions are trying to communicate something to us. But even more importantly than all of that is that, you know, we need self-compassion. And, you know, if we adopt this concept of being mentally tough, it ultimately ends to avoid suppression, and that can create all of those negative impacts that we talked about a moment ago. So moving on to the next myth. If I avoid situations that cause pain, then I won't experience painful emotions. The theory here is that avoiding certain people, events, situations will minimize the experience of emotional pain. It is partly true. There are some toxic situations that need to be avoided, but you can't avoid everything. It's a myth, because no matter how many experiences or situations you avoid, emotional pain is a given in life, but suffering is optional. Things do change, people die and pass away. You know, change creates an emotional response, and some of those emotions are painful. And ultimately, avoiding your emotions can lead to isolation and other mental health issues, and also living in a place of fear of being controlling. Okay, so when we're avoiding these people, events, situations, we can actually end up contorting ourselves to live in a world that we're ultimately afraid of, which doesn't lead to happiness. Myth number 4, if I distract myself, the pain will go away. So this is like, look at something else, just avoid, you know, it's a form of avoidance. So the theory is that distraction provides relief from painful emotions. So we just focus our thoughts and our energy and our attention on something else. Why is it a myth though? So distraction only provides momentary or temporary relief, okay? It can provide relief, which is why some people do advocate this method, but the emotion is still there, and it could actually be building up. So, you know, like we talked about in the scale of emotions, you know, some of those earlier feelings, if not dealt with or acknowledged, can escalate into more painful and more extreme negative emotions. So that's myth number 4. Myth number 5, if I just focus on being positive, then I won't feel emotional pain. So the theory on this is focusing on positive things creates positive emotions. There is some element of truth of that, but again, you know, looking away, just focusing on positive things is actually disrespectful to your heart and to your emotional pain. Can you imagine if you were in a room with someone and they were like crying and you said to them, "I just focus on being positive and look at life's great." They're there, they're crying, they're in pain, okay? So it's very disrespectful. So why is it a myth? So focusing on positive things can be helpful, but if being delusionally positive, then ultimately you're ignoring your emotional pain that's trying to communicate with you. And there's a concept out there now called toxic positivity. So that's just about being so positive and there's no pain and be grateful and, you know, all that sort of thing. But again, disrespectful to your pain and ignoring your internal guidance system, which is your emotions. Painful emotions need self-compassion. They're not to be ignored. And like I mentioned before, painful emotions can build up if they are ignored. So what can we do about painful emotions? I mean, we've looked at those myths and we understand the pain now and the scale, but is the situation hopeless? And the answer is no. There's lots of things you can do. So one of the things you could do if you're interested in working with me is attend my Master Your Emotions online workshop. The next one's on the Sunday, the 18th of October. It's a 3-hour workshop. And what it does is it combines powerful techniques in life coaching, somatic psychology. The word somatic just means in the body because emotions are a felt experience. It also covers mindfulness, self-compassion, a sprinkle of fun, and it's really designed to help you create a life that you thrive in, because when we master our emotions, we have more potential for joy and happiness and abundance and better relationships. And the workshop includes real-time techniques to master your emotions in any situation, because there's lots of great techniques out there and therapies, but you often have to wait. You have to wait to the end of the day or when to, you know, see a therapist or counsellor or someone else. And there's nothing wrong with those strategies, but it's the waiting part that then allows the emotions to further ruminate and build. So we look at real-time techniques and strategies. It also includes a personal action plan that you develop in the workshop, because every person is unique and it's not a one-size-fits-all. But it will help you to make the move from body hostage to body harmony and help you to no longer be hijacked by your emotions. Tickets are only $49 and I'll leave the details in the comments below. But if you want to also have some more flexibility with the same sort of content, coming soon is the Master Your Emotions online course. So that's an online course. It's exactly the same content, might have a bit more content than the actual workshop, but there'll be over 10 modules of learning, the practical exercises helping you to master your emotion. You do get your own personal action plan, which you create in the online learning yourself, but it can be done in the comfort of your own home and at any time, and there will also be some email support from myself. So look out for future details on that. But there's still more. So at Make the Move, we have a range of coaching services. And when we look at the tree of ourselves, the Master Your Emotions online courses and workshops predominantly focus on mastering your emotions, which are the branches of our tree, the big branches. And that's really effective because you need techniques to provide real-time results and to really navigate your internal world. But if you're keen to explore making some changes in the roots of your tree, so looking at your past, limiting beliefs, perceptions, personality, your thoughts and so forth, you really want to look at individual coaching programs. So in the individual coaching programs, we can look at things like reframing your past. We use timeline therapy to bust limiting beliefs. We can also explore changing your perceptions. We look at your managers or your personality traits that might be limiting or impacting how you experience the world in terms of your emotions. There's not much we can do about the central nervous system because it is part of our wiring, but it is part of that family. And we can also use NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, to rewire parts of the brain. So not the whole brain, but we can create new neural pathways to support a happier and healthier life. We'll also have a look at your thoughts, and some techniques also involve accessing the subconscious as well, which is, you know, things like hypnotherapy and also timeline therapy. So that's going to help you work on a much deeper level, and also the individual coaching programs are personal, so they're very much tailored for you. So there is a 3-month coaching program that is available, and it includes 10 individual coaching sessions with myself, either online or face-to-face. We look at the life satisfaction diagnostics, so that's where you get a measure of your overall life satisfaction in the areas of career, finance, health, fun, all your relationships, your environment, your areas for personal growth, etc. We actually go through the 6 painful emotions, and we can clear those from your past, your anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, and shame. We can clear limiting beliefs. We can rewire your brain using NLP. We can reframe your past, which is also important, and heal some of that deep pain from the past. And I'll also teach you the real-time techniques to master your emotions. There's also a recorded visualization technique to access the true messages and the wisdom of your emotions, and of course, your personal action plan. So if you're interested in that or any of the other programs I've mentioned, you can book in a free 30-minute discovery session. And in that discovery session, we look at, we have a conversation, I'll ask you some questions, we'll get clear on your goals, and we'll work out for a match for each other and what best program serves your needs in terms of coaching. I am online at the moment. I have a website that's under development, but you can also email me at renee@reneezaia.com. I'm on social media as well. And you can also shoot me an email and sign up to my monthly newsletter, which has a range of information and you know, programs and offers that's provided each month, because I don't like that many emails either, and we don't want to overstimulate the mind. So that is today's video. That was the summary and the integration. We did a big recap, we busted some myths, and we talked about some special offers and how, if you want to go deeper to make the move to true freedom and living a happy and healthy life and creating fabulous relationships, how you can work with me here at Make the Move. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video and the series on understanding painful emotions. I wish you all the very best. You know, we are here for a good time, not a long time, so it's important to make it count. I also welcome your comments and feedback, so if you have any questions or any comments you'd like to share, pop them in the comments below or contact me directly. All right, take care now. Bye.